Oh, am I record? How did I get record? I'll just go from here. Hi, my name is Melissa Holden, and I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about my paternal grandmother because I knew her very well, and it won't be much longer. I'm getting quite along in years, and so no one will remember anything about her. So, what do I remember about her? The number one things that I always remember is her asking my parents to walk around in her garden with them. We'd always go to their house, the Babcocks. We'd always go to their house after church on Sunday, and we'd always walk around in their garden. And she had this, I don't know what you call it, but it's like these little patches of growing things. She had a great big garden, and something we had a lot of that I have never seen anywhere else is something called ground cherries. Is that where I'm looking? Okay. Ground cherries we ate a lot of, and I loved them, and you can't find them anywhere else. They have like this papery film. It's hard to explain. Have you ever seen a silkworm or a tent worm? They build this tent around it. That's kind of what it looked like, kind of around it, but it's kind of papery. And when they're ripe, they fall to the ground, and when you pull that papery part off of them, there's this little white cherry. I loved those, but those grew in my grandma's garden. She always had interesting things growing in her garden. But when I say that she wanted to show her garden, that isn't what I meant. She also, on the side of her house, and we used to love to play a game when cars drive by on the road. It was called Isles Road in Michigan, Sandusky, Michigan. Anyway, we'd play a game and we'd wait for a car to come, and when a car comes, you had to run around the house and come back and find a place to hide, and the headlights couldn't touch you because it was dark. Anyway, I don't know why we'd love to play that game, but we did. And so this is about my grandma though. You'd go out the door, and she always had lots of plants on her porch and in her yard. Take you walk around there, and she knew there was always this great big patch of tiger lilies. That's the only thing I can remember, but she always knew exactly the name of every species and everything that she was growing, and she'd walk along to there, and then over, and I don't remember where all the places were where she was growing stuff, but that's what I remember about her at their farm. I also heard a story that made me kind of wonder, because when I think of my grandmother, I think of cooking. She was a really good cook, and she always had great big parties and invite everybody over and cook for everybody. Both sides of my family would have all of our celebrations together. And she's a beautician, and she, like me, she liked to talk a lot, and she was good friends with everybody. And oh, you know, such and such, the son of son. She knew how everybody was related in the town, and she'd have these great big parties. That was what I think she lived for. On the 4th of July, she had these great big parties. Yeah, that's funny. I'll tell this see if I can tell it really quick. My grandma would have these great big, those great big orange containers where you push the button and the drink comes out filled with Kool-Aid out by the porch, and not the porch, out in the yard. And my grandpa had a bunch of bricks piled up into what looked like a barbecue. Anyway, and there was a picnic tables out there, and they also had a buried gas tank that had a gas pump on it. But anyway, that's beside the point. So she had these great big orange containers, and there was Kool-Aid in them, and I was just hot because I was running around playing like little kids do. And I came running up, and I stuck my mouth under one. I pushed the button and got a mouthful of coffee. Now, why would someone put coffee in one of those? I don't know, but for some reason that's what she did at her party. The thing about her parties is I never knew anybody in them. Sometimes I'd see a kid or two from school. I'd be like, are you related to me? She would be. I guess we're kind of somehow related to almost everybody there, but she'd say, oh, we're related to the Riches. And I'd be like, no, I didn't know that. And then she'd explain it. I don't know how. She knew everybody and how everyone's related and everything. She'd also tell me stories about Strykerville, which is a town in New York. And we had a lesson. Anyway, I used to think she just made up that story to compete with my grandmother on my mom's side, who grew up in a town named after her family, McGregor, Michigan. So she came up with Strykerville, New York. So I looked it up, and it's legit. Everything she said was legit, and I'm finding everything she told me was true as well. Except for the story about a boat ride and a Swedish girl meeting a German guy. I can't find anything that supports that. But anyway, the thing about my grandmother cooking, let's jump back to that. My mom told me a story. She says when she was dating my dad, when it came time to eat, my dad said, well, just go to my house and get something. And she would purposely avoid going to my dad's house at all because my grandma was supposedly the worst cook in the world, which is hilarious to all of us children because my grandmother is known as the greatest cook in the world. She can cook anything. She is an amazing cook. And that's what she bequeathed, what she gave my sister and I, cookbooks. My sisters are quite a lot younger than me, but one of them was a cook, and she gave her a cookbook, and I got jealous because she gave her a cookbook, and so she gave me one too, but it was a Campbell's soup cookbook where everything I guess she didn't have much confidence in my cooking ability. You just mix Campbell's, it was like you mix a thing of soup in a crock pot with some meat. Can't mess it up. Anyway, things I remember, those are what I remember most about my grandmother. I remember she had a beauty parlor, and I remember that, here's a cute story she told me one time. My grandfather, I have a lot of stories about him. Sorry, my teeth are falling out. I love my grandpa. Okay, I need to look up what that is because my phone just told me about something and I don't know what it is. Anyway, so my grandpa was going to have cataract surgery on his eyes, and my grandmother was getting all stressed, and she just obviously needs somebody to talk to. So I says, hey, Grandma, what's wrong? You need someone to talk to. She says, I don't want your grandfather to have his eyes fixed because then he'll see how ugly I really am. Right now, he thinks I'm beautiful, and I'd like it to stay that way. Okay, my grandmother is a really beautiful person, but I can understand because as I get old, I feel really crappy too, but I don't think I get nervous about somebody seeing me properly. But at the same time, I have worried that people could see in a higher definition than what I record, and so they could see things like sometimes I look like I have a mustache, and sometimes my hair is really oily, and I worry about things like that. But on my camera, I have an itty-bitty camera, so I can't see well, but people could be watching on a higher definition screen on their computers, so it's legit concerns. Anyway, I wasn't going to ramble. I was just going to talk about my grandmother. Blah, 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 blah. I need to go look up what autophagy is because I don't know.